Alright, folks, welcome back to the Rapture Gaming Network playoffs, the semifinals between MiTH and Mineski. This is a best of three, tied at 1-1. If you're on Twitch, you're watching Shiver Gaming. This is Vikrman. Shiver's out for DreamHack. She will be back Monday. She's going to be casting Starladder. Starladder is also taking a vacation for DreamHack. Games will resume on Monday. For the meantime, we're going to cover Game 3 of this. Game 2, if you watched either in-game or in Twitch, was one of the weirdest games I've probably seen in a long time. Mineski began with an extremely good start. Things began to fall apart when Joven bought an early Dagon on Puck. At the time I was like, okay, you make Dagon, you try to win game, it's fine. But unfortunately the Dagon was like a bad luck charm. The entire team began to die again and again. MiTH took a commanding lead, took 3 racks of the 6. Then Mineski started to stabilize. They won a bunch of team fights. They were wiping MiTH all over and over again. MiTH were forced to use the power of the blinks. Lakel snuck in the back, got mega creeps, and Mineski didn't give up. They actually made a couple attempts to all-in push, including at the very end. Jules, who was doing very well on Mirana, tried to counter Ancient MiTH, but didn't quite do it. In the end, Mineski did fall to the mega creeps after 57 or 58 minutes. Game 1 was a lot simpler, not as difficult to explain. Mineski rolled. Joven played an amazing Invoker, Quaswex Invoker, and he was able to really carry his team to victory in that game. At any rate, I have no idea what will happen between these two Southeast Asian rivals in this game. MiTH from Thailand, Mineski from the Philippines. MiTH is playing with one stand-in, Moru. In Game 1, played a relatively ineffectual Storm Spirit. In Game 2, he was able to do a lot more as Windrunner. Still didn't do great. I mean, he didn't have great KDA, but he was able to get his spells, especially his crowd control spell, Shackle, as well as land mechanisms and Force Staffs effectively. So he was an important part of the team's victory in Game 2. For Game 3, I believe MiTH will be looking to shore up their mid lane. Abba really struggled on Invoker in Game 2. He started 2-9. He did end up fixing that by the end. He did a lot better, but it certainly made the early game a lot more touch and go than I feel like it necessarily had to be. So Mineski, meanwhile, are just going to be seek to... They've had good early games both times. In fact, they've won the early game in both games. They will just seek to make a stronger transition, more along the lines of what they did in Game 1, rather than maybe the overconfidence that they displayed by building Mass Midas and Dagon in Game 2. So looking at the drafts, the bans for MiTH are Lich and Alchemist. The Alchemist is a targeted ban at Jay's support Alch that did extremely well Game 1. In fact, Mineski has been picking Alch basically whenever it's not banned in the first phase and just using it as a support for Jay. So no surprise at that ban. Lich, just a generally strong hero. Mirana, the ban from Mineski. They did pick it last game, and Jules had a good time on it. Jules, in fact, made a couple of very, very daring split push sorties, including at the very end, but wasn't able to get there. Anyway, they banned that. They banned the Lifestealer, and then the OD and Invoker bans come out from them in the second phase. Meanwhile, Viper and Templar Assassin bans from MiTH. MiTH has been banning that TA very, very frequently. They know it's a hero that Mineski like. It's a sort of explosive mid-game play that Mineski definitely favors, or this incarnation of Mineski definitely favors. The Viper ban, I mean, there's actually a lot of mid bans this game. OD, Invoker, Viper, although Viper is used as sometimes mid, sometimes side lane carry, but as well as the TA, and even Alchemist sometimes is run as a mid hero. MiTH for their draft, they pick up Clockwork, they pick up Weaver, they pick up Visage. All bog standard drafting. The Clockwork was very, very, very important in Game 2 for Mineski. I think Jesse Vosh really kept the team in the game for a very long time, just with really excellent hook shots. And the hero is very versatile. Picking him early in a draft doesn't reveal, it doesn't give away much information about your draft at all, because Clockwork can be run in any of the lanes. He can be run as a support, mid, off lane. He's really a pseudo-dual safe lane with Bounty Hunter, the way that Mineski ran him in Game 2. He's really just... You can put the guy anywhere, so even if he's not necessarily your strongest pick, sometimes he's your best draft pick, because he just gives away so little. And this is the first time we haven't seen a Sand King ban in Phase 2 in this series, and so consequently MiTH will secure that Sand King for themselves. This gives them their support duo of Sand King Visage, Visage can Grave Chill to allow Sand King to close the distance necessary to cast his Epicenter. Sorry. His Burrow Strike. I apologize. Burrow Strike has a very low radius, range, I should say, at levels 1 and 2. So if he's able to Burrow Strike in, he needs somebody to set up for him, either with a pre-existing stun or a slow. Grave Chill is a very powerful slow, 33%. And so usually the Sand King is going to be able to make range based on that. So it's a good support pair, because Sand King does enough damage that Visage is then able to Soul Assumption relatively comfortably. Weaver, most likely the farmer in that tri-lane. That's another hero for Lekels. This means that we probably won't see as many bans coming out here from Mineski targeted at Lekels heroes. Now, one thing that MiTH Trust may do, and one thing that they've been known to do, is maybe put the Weaver in another lane, have a safe lane hero for Lekels, could even be the Clinks again, if it doesn't get banned. Just have safe lane Clinks, off lane Weaver, mid Clockwork. And that would be really scary, I feel, even if the Clockwork isn't really able to dominate mid or even do all that well. Just the presence of all these separate threats in the form of the Weaver, the Clinks, and the Clockwork could be really, really, really scary for Mineski. The Night Stalker ban comes out from MiTH Trust, so that's to protect the Weaver. Night Stalker, pretty strong against Weaver. If he lands that Crippling Fear, the Puck ban comes out from Mineski, so they clearly feel that it's going to be the Lekels Weaver, off-lane Clock or side-lane Clock, and then a mid still being searched for by MiTH Trust. And that's entirely possible. The Clinks isn't necessarily what they want to go for here. It's just an option. So Puck banned. Night Stalker, again, if he lands Crippling Fear on Weaver, Weaver is effectively useless. It's a very long duration silence at night. So Weaver can't Shukachi, can't time-lapse, which are his ways of surviving fights. He's not a beefy guy, he's just a guy is like a bug, is very able to scuttle away very easily. So if you can stop the scuttling with a Crippling Fear, that's very effective. Furthermore, Weaver is a hero who does 99% of his damage physical. Crippling Fear also has a pretty hefty miss component, so even if he wants to stand and fight... Ooh, hey, interesting. Even if he wants to stand and fight, he won't be able to do so because he has a pretty high miss chance. So, Night Stalker, smart ban. The pick from MiTH Trust is the Bristleback. So, Bristleback is a hero that I think is really underrated. I have arguments with LD on Twitter about this pretty regularly. I think he's extremely, extremely good. LD doesn't agree with me, but let's talk about Bristleback a little bit. So Bristleback as a hero is very, very tanky. He can absorb a lot of hits, for instance, of Eclipse, as long as he's facing away from Luna. Actually, that's a good question. I believe as long as he's facing away from Luna, he should have the damage from Eclipse be reduced. That's how it works in Dota 1. I don't know how it works in Dota 2. I guess you could say that technically Lucent Beam and Eclipse are above the hero, so maybe... I honestly don't know, folks, so feel free to post in the chat, enlighten me as to whether Bristleback will reduce Eclipse damage, but I suspect it does, and I also suspect that's why MiTH Trust pick him here. They want somebody to tank up a lot of Luna's damage, especially early on, when she's more tilted towards magic damage. Yeah, I have to assume so. Furthermore, Timbersaw is another very beefy bursting hero. Bristleback is another guy that can tank that. The only downside of picking a Bristleback against a Timbersaw, and in fact the downside of picking Clockwork and Bristleback against Timbersaw, and in fact the downside of picking Clockwork, Sand King, and Bristleback against Timbersaw, is that all three of them are strength heroes, and Timbersaw's Whirling Death reduces the primary stat of the hero that it hits by 15%. So all of those heroes will have their damage as well as their HP pool reduced by Timbersaw's first spell, and that could be scary to deal with. 15% is not nothing. Timbersaw is able to sometimes get kills that you wouldn't expect him to, solely by virtue of the fact that he's hitting Whirling Death onto a strength target. So, MiTH Trust, very strength-heavy lineup, so we'll see how they deal with that. At any rate, let's introduce the teams. On the Dire side, MiTH Trust, they took out a very hard-fought victory in Game 2. We'll see what they have with this Bristleback pick Game 3. Lekels is on that little dude. He's joined by SD on the Sand King and TNK on the Visage. In the mid lane, we'll have Moru as a mid Weaver. Not a common pick, but they feel confident because they know that none of Mineski's heroes really have amazing range to punish it. And Abba, who was on mid Invoker last game, is the Boots first Clockwork offlane this game, and he's got Boots, just using cogs to trap some of these creeps. He's been pooled Tango so that he can afford the Boots purchase, so Boots, Clarity, 4 Tangos, and 2 shared Tangos. Lots of regen. a little bit of mana regen, and great movement speed. In the middle, it'll be Joven for Mineski on the Rubik. So mid Rubik, something we don't commonly see. It's something that Dendi was experimenting with for Na'Vi recently, but it didn't go that well for them. We'll see what Joven is able to make of it this game. He's going up against Weaver. Supporting will be Jules. Wow, Jules goes all the way from Mirana in the 1 position to Crystal Maiden as a support. So a little bit of role reversals or role rotations being done by Mineski here. Maybe a little bit of experimentation. And Josh will be on the Ched. Then in the bottom lane, carrying this game, will be Jay, who was on Bounty Hunter last game. He'll be Luna this time around. Eats a little bit of a mana drain from Clock. Not too fun to be Luna against Clockwork because you're so short range, you actually do eat some of those cogs, lose some of your mana and health. And then in the off lane, it will be Jesse Vosh, who played an amazing Clockwork last game. He will be the Timbersaw this time around. Looks like a disconnect for Mineski. We had a lot of connection troubles for MiTH at the beginning of Game 2. Now the baton is passed to Mineski to have connection troubles in Game 3. I have to say the early game has been bending MiTH's way. Lakel's on this Bristleback already has 8 creep kills in 1 minute and change. That's a very, very excellent creep score for this point in the game. He also has 2 denies. So he's farming very, very well. Whereas the Luna, you can see Jay has struggled, even though Jay has very high damage. I mean, it's 70 damage. The Clockwork has been able to effectively deny some of the farm. The boots really let him close that power cogs distance. The boots let him close that close the distance to get the power cogs off guaranteed, which drains quite a bit of mana. As well as, honestly, it's not even the mana drain so much as it is the mispositioning. Luna will have a harder time getting close enough to the creep that she needs to last hit. And not only that, she might actually be in the air, pseudo-disabled, while the creep is dying. And this is under her tower, so it's even more difficult. So that's why Jay's really struggling to farm early here. But the problem is, yeah, just in general, I mean, Joven's doing fine mid. He's 3 for 3. He has 3 denies, but he is basically doing the same as Moru. A little bit better because he has the denies. But Weaver shouldn't really be in too much trouble here. The main danger for Weaver is that just at the wrong time his Shukachi is on cooldown, especially while he's on low level, and the Shukachi cooldown is relatively long, and he gets lifted and just killed. But Rubik doesn't do any damage, is the thing. Fade Bolt is not a strong nuke. It's been nerfed. It does reduce the damage of the person you're fighting, so it's not like Weaver can kill Rubik. But Weaver doesn't want to kill Rubik. He doesn't really care. Rubik definitely wants to kill Weaver. Bristleback's an interesting hero. The Russians have been running him a lot. Maybe that's why I like it so much, but he's a hero that has good damage potential, extremely tanky. Lakel's here going Goo second, so he has one rank in Quills, 1 rank in Goo. Most likely Quills max. I really haven't seen anybody not max Quills. It's such an excellent spell on such a low cooldown, and it's able to do tremendous damage over time. If a fight lasts a long time, it's very difficult to contest a Bristleback as long as he has mana, so he has enough mana to actually chain his spells, and as long as he stays alive, which he's very good at doing. He's a specialist of staying alive. He's a positioning-dependent hero. The way his passive works, his Bristleback, is that... Actually, hold that thought. I don't know. Unhold that thought. The way his passive works is that he has to be facing away from the person that's hitting him. But if they do, he takes a lot less damage. 40% less damage from behind. At max rank, 20% from the side. Abba is actually in Viz here. And they decided that they think they can get a kill. The problem is Abba's been spotted. So he sat... They have this sentry here. So actually Joven kind of giving away that he sees the Clockwork by auto-attacking him. But using Kupo the Metamorphoser this game. So Abba doesn't get anything from that Invis-Rune. In fact, he basically loses a bit of XP to do so. But Mora is still doing fine. The thing is, they will know now. They know for a fact that there's a sentry because he was outside of vision range. Oh, meanwhile, Jesse Vosh in a bit of trouble. 3 stacks of goo already. 4 stacks of goo. He manages to Timber Chain, but not before TNK gets the first blood for MiTH on this Visage. So, Lakel's getting those massive stacks of goo up on Timber. He has not taken any Bristleback because he's in the safe lane here. There's no danger of damage, and so he didn't need the Bristleback before level 4. Now he'll start taking it because usually people feel like they could probably leave goo at level 1, but Jesse Vosh couldn't stand up to it. I mean, they only have the 1 stun on Sand King, but they just have good enough damage that they were able to kill him quickly. And meanwhile, the levels for Clockwork are proceeding apace. Level 3 for Clock, level 3 for Timber. The supports of the Dire are the lowest level because they haven't been farming the jungle as much as both Crystal Maiden has. Jules almost level 4. And of course Chen is a jungle hero, so he has no trouble. He's built to farm the jungle. Abba level 3. Just hanging out, waiting to secure a rune. They see that the rune is top. It's going to be Sand King taking it, just to keep it off of Joven, making sure that the Rubik isn't able to get those runes. Rubik almost level 6. The idea of mid Rubik used to be very popular. When Rubik's spells were all better and he had much better base damage, Rubik used to be a mid hero. In fact, in TI2, you mostly saw the hero mid. Sometimes, well, no, you saw mid and support. Chuan played a lot of support Rubik, but you also saw the hero mid. Now Rubik mid really is much tougher. Josh in a lot of trouble here. Battery Assault hitting. He has the Swarm on him as well, and it'll be Moru getting that kill for MiTH Trust. And Josh just a little far out. Didn't realize that he could be punished as heavily as he eventually was, and that's some critical XP for Abba, almost hitting level 4 off of that. As well as the Weaver getting a little bit of an advantage in a lane where Weaver honestly isn't favored. It's 26 for 10 for the Rubik, 18 for 4 for the Weaver. So Moro is definitely not winning this lane, but at least he's not losing by that substantial of a margin. He has... Oh, actually, they've left this courier. What are they doing? Mineski! Maybe tired from that last game. They do find a kill onto Clockwork bottom. The Chen gets the last hit, but that was not worth losing the courier. And meanwhile, SD takes a lot of damage. Jesse, Vash, and Joven up here. Joven with a stolen Shukachi. Thing about Rubik against Weaver is that Shukachi is such an effective spell for Rubik to steal. And he doesn't get a kill. Lakels has started using his Midas, but SD will be sent home. The big Mineski, I mean, oh, here's Jesse, Vash. No, Joven and Jesse, Vash considering diving under the tower. They end up not doing it. Clockwork picked off again bottom. This time they use an Eclipse to do it. But this will be a tier 1 tower as well as 2 kills on Clockwork. So Mineski will certainly be very, very happy with this. Jay will now be ahead on net worth relative to Bristleback, and a large part of Bristleback's net worth is that Midas. So very critical pickups for Mineski. That courier was carrying... Oh, man. The Midas recipe for Jay. So Jay will be... very delayed on his Midas as a result of them losing that courier. That's much worse than I thought it would be, honestly. Wow. Well, I mean, they get a tower and they get 2 kills, so they almost, if he wants another Midas and just sell the old Midas recipe, he almost can. Abba decides to turn this around, but he's only level 4. He does have Cogs available. Battery Assault's still ticking. It's about halfway done. Nice Cogs. The timing is quite excellent. And he will find this solo kill onto Jay. Revenge of Abba as MiTH Trust picks up their 3rd kill of the game. Very, very nicely played by that Clockwork there, honestly. And Lakels is just going to be very happy that he has this big advantage in terms of gold income because his Midas is coming a solid 3.5 minutes earlier than Mineski's can because their recipe is stranded on a dead courier. Meanwhile, SD just shoring up the middle for Moru. Moru has this Gloves of Haste, no boots, so this could actually be a Midas of his own. I think he's going to gauge how well the game goes. Maybe he'll go into a Treads if it's going really bad, but... if he gets the gold, he's just going to do Midas. Jesse Vosh trading blows. Here comes Joven, though. Shukachi in. The lift is there. Lakels is very low already, but Joven takes a big Soul Assumption hit. Not enough. Whirling Death secures the kill for him. Jesse Vosh very low. The trade is Bristleback for Rubik and Timbersaw as TNK and SD make the best of the situation and land 2 big Soul Assumptions to clear that out. Crystal Maiden finishes her Tranquil Boots, clears out a ward just to get better vision in the middle for Mineski, but that still wasn't really the fight they wanted. They at least killed the Bristleback, so 1 death for him, 1 death for the Luna, of course, and with their courier coming up in 23 seconds, they'll finally get the Midas up momentarily. And still, I feel like game hasn't really tipped either way just yet. The Rubik is having an okay time. The fact that he can steal Shukachi is, of course, a major boon. It might have been part of the idea of picking him, is that he'd get that Shukachi so early. But that kill, I mean, on Bristle, I feel it's almost not worth it. You lose the mid. You let Weaver catch up mid, basically, while you do that, and you feed 2 kills over to these supports that need items, too. I mean, Visage isn't the most item-dependent guy, but he can get items. Certainly Sand King is quite item-dependent. He needs that Blink. He needs that Arcane Boots. Mora just getting harassed back by Joven a little bit, who's already, of course, stolen Shukachi. I mean, the only other thing you can possibly steal from Weaver is, like, Time Lapse or the Swarm, but 99% of the time you're going to get a Shukachi. That's the spell that Weaver spams. Counter warding being done by MiTH Trust now, even as Mineski finally has their Midas delivered and used for Jay, who maintains a slight net worth advantage. Oh, actually, they find the Weaver in the mid. Another sentry placed, and just a Shukachi into lift is a big deal. Abba misses the hook shot even as he was smoked, so Mineski MiTH Trust not able to generate the counter gank that they wanted there. They really wanted to at least catch the Rubik in return for the Weaver. Weaver actually probably could have had Midas and couldn't get it off that. Jesse Vosh whirling death onto Lakels, who takes a ton of damage. And Lakel's forced off. He doesn't have any regen. And looks like he wants Vanguard, but doesn't have it just yet. Abba, they're back here. Abba's actually been desmoked. He already uses Battery Assault. Can he catch Jay? Jay uses Eclipse, but it misses. Only one hit of it actually hits. And Sand King is here. They're on the hunt. So, Moru comes around as well. There's the stun from Sand King. The lift comes out from Rubik. Nice steal! Joven takes the Burrow Strike, and Sand King's down. They trade for Jay. Can they trade for Joven as well? There is a bug on him from the Swarm. He manages to clear it out. He's dusted as well. He has Burrow Strike still. He just has to find the right timing to use it. And he's going to Burrow Strike in just a moment. To safety. He's alive. The Geminid are not enough to pick off the Rubik. So, an okay trade. They do lose, but at least they manage to pick up something in return. Bristleback back up here, just continuing to farm. Lakels probably wants his Vanguard. The problem is that Timbersaw will be able to do a ton of damage because it's all pure. It really doesn't care whether you have a Vanguard or not. It's just going to be murking you either way. He has a rank 4 Timber Chain that misses. With the chain, maybe he gets the kill. Without it, no way. TNK, fleeing top, long-range Lucent Beam. Jay finds that kill. 3, 2, and 1 now for the Luna. Farming quite well, in addition to being able to pick up the odd kill here and there. Moru, meanwhile, I think the Midas probably coming out for him, or the rest of Treads. It's the Midas. So Midas for Weaver, Midas for Bristleback, and they're just going to look to go a little bit later, MiTH Trust. Meanwhile, for Mineski, Timbersaw, very standard. Arcane Boots, we'll see if he goes Fast Bloodstone. I think most likely he will. We see Fast Bloodstone on almost every Timbersaw player. It's so cute. Anyway, Vitality Booster for Lakels, so that'll be the end of his Vanguard. Gives him, that gives him really great health regen, good damage block against people like Luna. The Visage Familiar is hunting Jay. Will there be a stun here? Abba is ready to... Oh, the stun hits! They missed the hook shot, but they still land the cogs. DD Rune is available for Abba. There's no Eclipse available for 50 seconds for Jay. Doesn't even manage to Lucent Beam, is just blocked off, and so that's an easy kill onto Luna. Jay has been dying, I think, a little more than Mineski would like. 3 deaths now for him. Meanwhile, the drums charge... No, sorry, it's the Buckler, as Mineski sieges the middle tier 1. They want to try to get a little bit of map control. Meanwhile, Jesse Vosh in a little bit of trouble. Moru harassing him. All they have is here is SD, who does have level 3 Burrow Strike, but it's not quite ranked up high enough to just hit you out of the blue. Joven. Doesn't get the last hit. It's just going to be taken by a generic creep. But that's the second tower for Mineski this game. They are starting to take a little bit of the map control that they want. And with this Shukachi available for Rubik, I mean, his movement speed is so good, and his ability to get from place to place is so excellent that it really was an excellent choice in that regard. He still has to prove out that the hero actually does more than just get around really quickly, but... Power Treads complete for Abba. TNK just making support items. In fact, nothing really major for anybody yet. There's, of course, the Vanguard for Lakels, but that would be coming regardless. The Midas hopefully ramping him towards bigger items in the future. And Luna going for the very standard build where you just go for BKB as soon as possible, no matter what your opposition is. And against Sand King, BKB is hardly unadvised. You really want that BKB to stop that Burrow Strike Epicenter combo, particularly the Epicenter damage. They're going to probably lose a Dark Troll Summoner here. They do. Jules has a pretty good loadout for Crystal Maiden at this point. 3 assists. So he has Tranquil Boots Urn, hasn't died. Lakel's Frostbitten up. There's the Chakram from Timber, so he's taking a ton of damage. Eclipse comes through. 1 more auto attack. Yes! Bristleback secured for Mineski already in this fight, but Jules, it might be the trade. Nice Burrow Strike from Joven, hits onto 2. Jules, 1 more auto attack from Weaver will do the trick, but the Chakram is hitting them in their own cogs. Weaver takes a tremendous amount of damage from Timbersaw as well. Lucent Beam to finish off the Clockwork, and the rest of MiTH Trust limping away from this fight. SD so low, will the Rubik get it? Yes! Fatebolt gets the 4th kill of that fight for Mineski, and what a good fight that was. And Joven, we just talked about how he needed to prove the Rubik pick. That Burrow Strike was absolutely choice, and MiTH Trust's cogs from the Clockwork came back to haunt them as Jesse Vosh planted a Chakram right on top of those suckers, leading to the death of the Visage and most of the death of the Clockwork. Only the Weaver makes it out of that fight, and Weaver has next to nothing. He has a MiTH, he's used it twice, he has 1,200 gold, 3 kills. I mean, Moru is having his best game of the 3 games in this series. He's been standing in for MiTH this entire series because R5 is stuck in traffic. And, I mean, the question is it enough? They've got 5.3k net worth on the Weaver, 5.9k net worth on the Bristleback, but the Luna's at 8.2k. I mean, she's got a little bit of a farm edge on the kills, but primarily the difference is just that out of 10 kills, Luna's been in set... Oh no. This has got to be a Yasha, right? Right, okay. This is going to be a Yasha. What? Okay, so... Helm of the Dominator, eventually... Okay, yeah, full Yasha's done. Sorry, I was, like, losing it for a second there. So he's going to make a Helm of the Dom next. He's decided to delay his BKB a bit just because he doesn't feel that much danger from the Sand King just yet. I actually like this. Abba, hunting with the Invisibility Rune. Will he make a good hookshot happen here? They don't have good vision at all, MiTH. In fact, they have barely any vision of any sort. Sand King does finish Arcane Boots, so he's going to move towards his Blink pretty soon. Well... in 2,100 gold. But Abba still has half the invis time, so if they can catch at least Jules, they would find another kill. Jules with only 1 death so far, the death in the last big team fight. He was the sacrificial offering while Mineski cleaned up the rest of MiTH. But MiTH, it looks like, are just going to use zone control to pick up this tier 1 tower. They've got 4 people down here. Probably just going to push in, try to take the tier 1, but Mineski are massing up. They're smoked up as well. Rubik has a 4 staff available and still the Burrow Strike steal. Jules has all of his spells. Timbersaw, of course, has the enormous damage potential. And MiTH sense that something is awry. They pull back. They pull everybody out. Oh, but here's Jules. Can he Frostbite Moru? Oh, he doesn't. He Crystal Novas and Moru's going in. Here comes SD. He manages to interrupt Jesse Vosh, but unfortunately he goes down immediately. Chakram gets thrown out as well. Abba is trapped in it again. Jules eats a mech charge alive for now, but he's going to get dropped. Here comes the Eclipse, though. Abba's in a lot of trouble. So is Moru. He manages to time-lapse his way out, but he gets stunned. The Burrow Strike is coming in, and his Shukachi's almost out. He's dying. He's dead. Weaver goes down. TNK trying to get away from Jesse Vosh, who has another Timber Chain in a second. It's not on the target to actually kill the Visage. Neither is the Chakram. In fact, he's out of mana. No, he's not. He has just enough to chain and kill Visage, and that's another 4 kills put up on the board. Sand King is just getting stopped. Joven is absolutely tearing into the Sand King Weaver combo because he just steals the spells every time and stops them from being able to get anything done. The familiar stun comes down, but it's not enough to prevent Mineski from taking the tier 2 bottom tower, and they're starting to seize control of yet another game early on. The question is, can they hold on through the mid game, or will MiTH be able to turn it around again? Lakel's farming. He's got the cloak, probably going to maybe a hood. A hood plus his Bristleback will basically mean that Luna's Eclipse barely tickles him. He can tank the entire thing if he wants. Chen, Naked Mechanism. That mechanism helped a lot because it kept Crystal Maiden alive long enough to absorb more damage. But here's Crystal Maiden stuck all alone. Jules, no way he survives this. He is out way past his bedtime, and that'll be Crystal Maiden giving Bristleback free kill. Jesse Vosh farming up. The Bloodstone finished off of that last fight. Very fast Bloodstone, about 16 minutes. He'll be extremely happy to have picked that up. And now it's just build boots, build the rest of your items. Timbersaw's main goal is now achieved. He's been part of a lot of kills. He's gotten the Bloodstone. He'll be a nuisance, a serious nuisance for MiTH for the rest of the game. And this Timber, I mean, their picks have just done very well against MiTH relatively. The Timber was able to do a lot of damage to the Bristleback, even get a kill on him. And the Rubik has just done excellently against the Sand King Weaver. Only thing is the Luna, I mean, she has been dealing the damage. That's the main thing. She's been in every fight just dealing tons and tons and tons of damage. So even if she dies 3 times, he's still ahead on the kills just by virtue of being there whenever they're killing people. And getting a pretty quick MiTH, even though it was delayed by the fact that they fed the courier. And I'm not trying to be rude. They really did feed the courier. It was sitting above. It was like sitting here and nobody was moving it while Weaver was hitting it. It took 5 hits. Like, it could have gotten away. Rubik done with Blink. Blink 4 staff available now for Rubik. I suspect the next pickup is going to be that Aghanim Scepter for some true WoW Dota plays. But the Blink 4 staff is just a great loadout for him. Between that and Shukachi, there's no way that Rubik will not be where he wants to be when he wants to be. And whether or not he steals the right spell is really up to him and not up to the vagaries of chance. Gem available for Timbersaw. Another good tool for trying to pick off a Weaver. In fact, we might see this Weaver really struggle now just because of the amount of tools arrayed against him. Medallion available for Visage. Good for Roche if they ever go for it. It's amazing with Bristleback. In fact, it's like the best pub item for Bristleback, I think, is building a fast medallion on him. But in this case, when you know that there's a support, especially a Visage who already medallion is one of his core items, the Visage can do it for you. Mirana! Sorry. Luna chewing through those Visage familiars, already kills one, the other one forced to come down for a water landing. And will they get the other one? No, they don't. They don't get the other one. Joven's not going to use his Invis rune to kill a familiar. Jay! Oh my god, dude! He gets the familiar, and Lakel's is frostbitten! There's the Eclipse! It's coming out from in front of him! They know that they can kill him, they move on to the rest of the team. BKB popped. They don't actually get Lakel's. They finally kill him. That's Bristleback for you. Almost unkillable, but here they are going for the tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, a split push coming out on the bottom. SD starting to siege the tier 2 bottom. But actually, yeah, fortification used intelligently for MiTH Trust. The buyback from Lakel's as well, and the hookshot. Jules now trapped in a cogs. Here comes Lakel's, starting to smack onto Jay. They don't have another Eclipse available. Abba very low though. Jesse Vosh wants to finish him off. Timber Chain through a lifted guy. Josh is in a bit of trouble. They mini stun Lakel's, trying to keep him off Josh. 2 stacks of goo already. Jesse Vosh, meanwhile, with a killing spree, picks off the Visage. Lakel's is forced to flee at this point. Joven trying to get away. 4-staffs himself. They want to disengage if they can. Joven steals Shukachi again. Now harassing Lakel's. Will they try to actually re-engage? Jay is not too high. He's got Helm of the Dominator. Josh blocked off by his own creeps. The Geminate enough to kill him. There's the stack of goo onto Jay. He's being chased. Where is the defense force to try to stop this? It looks like MiTH Trust may just call it off themselves. Uh-oh. Burrow strike. Familiar stuns. Weaver with the Geminate attack. Jay is so low, even though they managed to pick off Lakel's. No. They finally get the Luna. But the trade is Lakel's gets brought down by Jesse Vosh and Joven. And I'm actually not sure how great that trade was because he had just bought back. Here comes Abba. 4-steps himself forward. Cogs Joven, who 4-steps himself out. And now gets hit by a sinking Burrow strike. Joven's very low. He Shukachis. He Burrow strikes. Can he get out? He doesn't have blink. No. He gets brought down, and it's another fight that I really don't think bent the way that MiTH Trust were hoping for. Weaver manages to pick up an entire BKB in one go, and now it's going to be much more difficult for Timbersaw to do anything against him. 12 charges on Jesse Vosh's Bloodstone. He needs to Timber Chain across the river. He does successfully do so, and the chase is called off at that point. So MiTH Trust, they buy back the Bristleback. He's way behind on net worth now, but Bristleback is not the most item-dependent carry in the world, and more importantly, they get all the kills they could possibly want. Here comes Crystal Maiden Midas at 25 minutes or later. But they get Weaver to a point where he's much, much, much safer. He was 3-1. He's now 7-2. He has BKB plus 1,800 gold. He's so safe now against Rubik, against Crystal Maiden, against Timbersaw, and even, frankly, against Luna. Those are kills that I think Mineski really couldn't afford to give up. Meanwhile, Chen, already with a point booster, looks like Josh will be going straight for that Aghanim Scepter. Now, Chen has a little bit of a difficulty with mana, actually, if he gets that early Ags, especially if he doesn't have Arcane Boots. So I wonder what their solution for giving enough mana to the Chen will be. I guess just that they already have Arcanes for Rubik, and of course they have Crystal Maiden with Arcane Aura. But it's still a very bold choice to go for that point booster so early. Maybe he'll go for the point booster, then make Arcane, and then finish the Aghanims. Because, I mean, Point Booster gives you a decent amount of mana pool as well. BKB is the target for Lakel's, not going to the hood, just wants the full immunity. This will be very, very useful for him when he finishes that, although he's certainly not close now since he just bought back in the last fight. Meanwhile, Sand King, yeah, another major beneficiary of that last fight for MiTH Trust is definitely Sand King, where SD now has the Blink Dagger. If you remember, his Earthshaker Game 2 was very, very, very formidable, so if he's able to just get in, get his Burrow Strikes done, especially before Luna actually gets the BKB off, that's going to be a one fight for MiTH Trust, and that's going to be another game that they can start to pull back after having a rough early game. Luna's still ruling the roost as far as farm goes, though. She's got Yasha, most of a Manta style, she wants it. Has, of course, the Helm of the Dominator to be turned into Satanic later. But Weaver is just farming so well. I mean, he's up to the second on the GPM. He's up to second on net worth with 10.6. Just takes a Chakram to the face, but it's not really... It's immaterial to whether he survives. He has Mithril Hammer. This means that he's going to be going Desolator, and all of a sudden, MiTH Trust will have a very potent pushing force. The Weaver will be doing very appreciable damage, so honestly, it's pretty scary for Mineski, from my perspective. They have a Weaver who's going to be barreling down their door. They have a Bristleback who's hard to kill under the best of circumstances. You saw how far he lived under that tier 2. They have a split push threat when the Weaver gets Desolator. Abbas, obviously always scary with the ability to hook shot in. I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty scary, pretty strong toolkit available for Myth Trust. Not that Mineski are any slouches either. I mean, for anybody that doesn't have BKB, Timbersaw and Luna are just going to rip them up. Obviously, Rubik has great crowd control capability. His steals, Joven's steals, have been very on point. He's 3-2 and 10 right now, so he has the highest kill participation of anybody besides Crystal Maiden. And Jules, I mean, whatever, late Midas, but he will get the levels. He will at least be a damage threat. We've seen in this series how people feel like they have to focus Crystal Maiden just because their spells are so good, especially the ultimate. And when you're spending all your time focusing Crystal Maiden, you know, the Rubik's running around, the Luna especially, who's the squishy heroes running around, it just looks like they're going to smoke into Roshan, Mineski. Yep, you're going to try to sneak a Roshan. They have not been seen. Josh still smoked with all of his creeps, and there is a ward up here for... Oh no, it's actually their ward, so... Looks like it's going to be an easy Rosh. The DD rune available for Luna as they do this. Meanwhile, Myth Trust placing some pressure on the top. But Myth Trust playing very defensively. They finally Rocket Flare. They've seen that this is happening, but it's a little bit too late. It's going to be a free Aegis for Luna. And that's a great pickup for Mineski, especially if they can defend this tower. They use a fortification to do so. Moro's going to scuttle on away, but pretty great pickup for Mineski. Really key to actually continue their aggression that they've been exhibiting this game. Lakel's running on in. Wants to start a fight. Luna is so isolated. Jay pops the BKB. Here comes Eclipse, but it's really not doing all that much. It's just hitting Bristleback repeatedly. And Luna, he's so isolated. He finally gets the Visage at least. He still has BKB ticking. There's the Epicenter. Luna is in danger of walking into it. It doesn't do quite enough. Jules is just meching back up to full. Joven blinks in. He's going to use his own Burrow Strike. Lakel's now in trouble. SD on the ground. Lakel's, he's getting Chain Centaur stomped inside of the Chakram, and that's enough to kill even a Bristleback. Here's Joven. Blink Burrow Strike once again. The Weaver squished like the bug he is, and here comes Mineski. 4 for 0 was the trade on that fight. What a good fight and well put together fight that was. This Rubik with the Blink Force Staff and the stolen stuns is just running roughshod over Myth Trust. Very well put together with the Centaur stomps. I really thought that Jay had overextended there, but he knew his team had his back. He knew he had Aegis even if it went a little worse. Here's another Burrow Strike. TNK, he just came back. His familiars are in so much trouble. He's forced to land them prematurely, and he's already dead. Joven might be the trade, or is he? He force-staffs himself out of the cogs. One more tower hit will do it. Yes, they lose Rubik, but at what cost to Myth Trust? They lose the Clockwork and the Visage again. The stuns come through onto Jay. He still has Aegis. He doesn't even seem to care. He's just going to ravage the Visage familiars and even do a little bit of damage to the tier 4 as Mineski. This is probably the most convincing lead they've had since game 1. Jesse Vosh clearing out another set. 17 charges on the Bloodstone for this Timbersaw. He will complete Scythe of Vice from those last 2 team fights. This Timbersaw is huge. In fact, I would say that Myth Trust are in a world of trouble right now. The Bristleback pick not quite paying off just yet. He had an okay lane phase, but Timbersaw was able to generate a lot of pressure. And since then, he's just been getting isolated in these fights, and there's so much damage output from Mineski that even though Bristleback is tanky, he's just been getting torn apart, especially with these chain disables, the Frostbite, the Centaur stomps, and of course all inside the Watchful Eye of a Chakram. Jay, going to work, using his Helm of the Dominator creep, he has gotten himself a 4 stack of Ancients, now going to clear them out, the Lifesteal of course helping out as well as the Moonglaive Cleave. It takes a little bit of a while, of course. He doesn't want to use his Manta for this, wants to save it in case somebody jumps on him, but he clears out the entire wave. That's 2.7k gold added to his tally, now 8k gold ahead of Moru's Weaver, and that's very problematic. Myth Trust, that last fight really cost them, honestly. The same way the fight before really made Mineski's position more precarious, this is really putting Myth in now a very, very precarious position. There's still 3 full minutes on the Aegis, and full Assault Cuirass built for Luna. Full Assault Cuirass out now. Not that common of an item on Luna, but they don't really have another natural carrier for it. And the attack speed and the armor against Weaver and Bristleback is just so absolutely crucial, and that's exactly what it's going to give his entire team. I think it's a great pickup. Tier 2 top is the next target. They want to use these remaining 3 minutes of the Aegis as best they can. And Lakel's and co., I bet after the last fight, they just don't feel like they have the tools to deal with it. Rubik has to be a higher priority, because they're just getting Rubik to fight after fight after fight. Is Eclipse available? Yes, there is an Eclipse, and he's used Manta for additional pushing power, so here they go, up to the high ground. They have a gem, still on the Timbersaw. They bought it a while ago. He's managed to hold on to it. Oh, actually, Chen bought it, but Timbersaw's been carrying it. And Mineski, they're on the high ground. The creep wave cleared out. Moru's Shukachi already stolen by Joven. Now they know what it's going to be for the next 13 seconds, but still, that knowledge is not that powerful because your team doesn't have a gem. Here we go. Stun comes out. Jay doesn't want to use the BKB just yet. Here's a lot of damage on Lakel's already, and there's the Eclipse! Weaver doesn't get a chance to time-lapse. He doesn't have buyback. Oh, that was an error by MiTH. They went in on a fight that they were half-baked and not ready to take, and they immediately lose 3. That fight was a very, very, very serious mistake. In fact, it's the mistake that will cost them their position in the Rapture Gaming Network League. Mineski takes it out over MiTH 2-1 in the semifinals. That moves Mineski to the finals of this competition to face the winner of the Orange versus First Departure game next weekend. As Extremist says in the chat, the finals will be next Sunday. Mineski versus either Orange or First Departure. Mineski certainly earning their slot. They took an interesting series over Titan 2-1, and here they take out a very interesting series over MiTH, also 2-1 with a very, very, very special second game. If you didn't get a chance to check out the second game, I do strongly recommend it. In the end, Mineski's aggression, too powerful for MiTH to deal with. They could never stabilize quite the way they wanted in this Game 3. And so they're sent out of the tournament with a respectable finish. They were second, I believe, in the regular season, and they'll place in the 3rd, 4th slot. I don't know if there's going to be a 3rd place decider game, but I believe there will be. So they'll be either 3rd or 4th for the overall tournament. Thank you so much for watching, folks. This was, if you're in-game, thanks for watching in-game. Obviously picking up a ticket for the RGN. They really appreciate your support. And if you're watching on Twitch, this was on Shiver Gaming. You can check her out, obviously. She has a website, shivergaming.com. You should subscribe to her Twitch. She does do streaming as a full-time job, so you should definitely check her stuff out. She's going to be doing all of Starladder Season again. She's pretty much the most dependable Starladder caster for a while now. And she will be back tomorrow. She's been at DreamHack this weekend doing player interviews, things like that, but she'll be back tomorrow for Starladder. I myself am Vikramond, VYKROMOND. You can check me out on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, my website. Always love hearing from people. The only thing is my Steam friends list is full, so don't add me on Steam. But I promise I would add you if my list weren't full, but it is. Sorry. Jay with an 890 GPM performance on Luna helps Mineski, the Filipino team, go to the finals of RGN. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.